So just in case you are not able, or if you know of anybody who isn't able to view this meeting today, we will have this uploaded onto the boston.gov website so that anyone can watch it after the meeting today. So please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat with your first and last name, your preferred pronouns, and your discipline. People will be coming in during the meeting, so feel free to continue to introduce yourself in the chat and we'll get started. I'm going to pass it over to Julia Ryan to give us an update from the City of Boston.
Hi everyone, my name is Julia Ryan and I'm the Artist Resource Manager for the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. And before we get started, I realized that some of us might be here for the first time, and I wanted to talk to you about who our office is and what we do in case you're new to our work. So the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture is a municipal office in the City of Boston, and we focus on bringing better access to arts programming for Bostonians, better support for artists who are local to our area and arts organizations. And also we do a lot of work on public art. And there's a bunch of other things that we kind of have going on in our office. We do monthly newsletters to stay in touch and lots of social media at our Arts in Boston accounts. But we'd love for you to just learn more about our work if you're not already familiar with it, and we would love to get to know you better too. So just to start today, we wanted to do a bit of a COVID-19 update. So as of today in Boston, there are a little over 11,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19. And of those residents who have had COVID-19 so far, around 3,300 have fully recovered and 533 have passed away. We have decided to close the Boston Public Schools throughout the rest of the year. And if you are interested in receiving daily updates via text in the language that you speak, hopefully, we have a text message update that you can sign up for. You just text BOSS COVID to 99411, and then you can choose a language of your choice. We also just wanted to let you know that the stay at home has been extended until May 18th as of now, but that's an ever evolving situation. Also, as we have said in previous calls, we are still enforcing strict measures for social and physical distancing. So that includes wearing a face covering when you're out in public. That would be covering your nose and your mouth. And this is required when you're running, when you're exercising, walking around. Thank you for doing that and helping keep us all safe. And we also want everyone to know that from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day, there is an advisory for everyone to stay home except for essential workers. Next slide, please. So just a little bit, okay. Okay, I think we're good. Yes, okay. So thank you, Pascal. So we have been running a survey in partnership with Mass Creative and a bunch of other arts organizations throughout the state to gather information about artists and creative workers and how COVID-19 has impacted them. And we are really, we're really hoping that we can gather data to show how important creative workers are to our local creative economy, and also to tell stories more equitably. We want to really hear from as many people as we can in different areas of the state, in the different neighborhoods of Boston. So we really hope that you will fill out the survey if you haven't already. We also hope you'll share it with anyone you know who might be part of this, this group. Next slide. So just a quick recap on some of the grants that are available for individuals right now. One of the things that I've been working on during this time is our Boston Artist Relief Fund, which is a relief fund for artists who live in the city of Boston and have been affected negatively by COVID-19. So far we have, we had initially allocated $53,000 from a grant called the Opportunity Fund for this particular new fund. We quickly went through that, and we have added $75,000 to that initial allocation. We also have been partnering with the Boston Center for the Arts to raise money for this fundraiser and for this fund. And so far we've raised about $125,000 through the Boston Center for the Arts. That said, we are really excited to continue raising funds so that we can support all 937 of our applications so far. And so we really, really hope that you'll share with your community the fundraiser that the Boston Center for the Arts is running. They will be running it until the end of May. And we hope to raise at least $250,000, but I think all the help we can get would be really appreciated for our community right now. We also have decided to close the Relief Fund this Friday on May 15th. Now that we've received almost 1,000 applications, we want to focus on really being able to fund as many of them as we can. So if you haven't applied already, I welcome you to do so. You would just go to boston.gov/artistrelief to find information and to find the application. And then I just wanted to shout out a few resources that are really helpful right now. So NEFA, the New England Foundation for the Arts, has a really wonderful COVID-19 webpage where they're bringing together lots of types of resources for creative workers right now. And then also the state cultural council, the Mass Cultural Council, has a great website that you should check out as well. Next slide, please. Just a few other similar funds I want to quickly go through that are open and folks are welcome to apply to. There's the Cambridge Artist Relief Fund. So that's for artists who live and or work in Cambridge. There's also the Theater Community Benevolent Fund is open for artists who work in the kind of theater fields and theater companies. There's also the Fairmount Cultural Corridor Initiative Artist Relief Fund. That's for artists who live and or work in Roxbury, Dorchester, Hyde Park, and Mattapan, and that's for artists of color. And it's a grant of $1,000, and it's actually also closing this Friday on May 15th. So if you're going to apply for that, I highly suggest you get that application in soon. Next up, we have the Pear Fund, which is funded through PASIM, and that's a grant of $500. And the only requirement is that artists take part in the Keep Your Distance Fest. Next slide. And a few other, just to note, the Foundation for Contemporary Arts Emergency Grant Fund is still open for applications, and the Arts and Culture Leaders of Color Emergency Fund is still open for applications as well. Next slide. And then just a few more, and then I'm going to pass it off, I think. But we have the Parent Artist Advocacy League Emergency Fund, which is for artists who are struggling to figure out how to take care of their families during this time. The Cape Cod Artist Relief Fund, which is for artists on the Cape. And the Restaurant Strong Fund, which is for folks who work in the service industry in restaurants, nightclubs, cafes, and bars, and have been affected by COVID-19. And we're including that because we know a lot of our creative workers also work in service industry work as well. Next slide, please. A few more. The PEN America Writers is an emergency grant for up to $1,000 for writers. There's also the Queer Writers of Color Relief Fund, which is up to $500 for queer writers of color. The Dramatists Guild Foundation has a fund for playwrights, for composers, lyricists, and I can't say that word, but librettists. And the International Bluegrass Music Association has a fund specifically for folks who work in the bluegrass music industry. Next slide, thank you. So that's all for me today. We will compile all of that in the PowerPoint, and we will be sharing that out with everyone who registered. So thanks so much for coming today, and we're gonna pass it off to Luke at the Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luke Blackadar. I am a staff attorney at the Arts and Business Council of Greater Boston. I manage our Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts program. For those of you who aren't familiar with us and haven't been on these calls before, we provide affordable legal services, legal education, referrals to attorneys for low-income artists and arts organizations of all disciplines. So normally what we've been doing is just providing a couple updates on some of the legal programs and legal issues that have been coming up in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. In the last 2 weeks, there really haven't been a whole lot of changes. As you might know, we rolled out the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program at the Department of Unemployment about 3 weeks ago on April 20th. That was the same day that the the eviction and foreclosure moratorium bill became law, and that went into effect. I believe about 2 weeks ago, the economic injury disaster loan and the SBA Paycheck Protection Program loans were replenished. So we've kind of been just moving along with those programs. And lately what we've been seeing in our office has been now not so much people asking questions about how to apply for these various programs, but now, okay, I've applied for unemployment. How do I do the certification? What do I need to report every week? Or for Paycheck Protection Program loans, now what do I have to anticipate for the upcoming forgiveness to prepare for that in the, the 8-week period that that's supposed to come into effect? So what we've been doing, in addition to our traditional lawyer referral program, we also put together a emergency response program, a group of about 9 or 10 national law firms that are able to kind of fast track referrals for dealing with regular or common COVID-19 related issues like landlord-tenant, employment, unemployment, contract issues, insurance, things like that. So we still have that going. We also put together a technical assistance program staffed by my colleague Alexis Dearborn and her 2 interns. And they're actually at the call and they can speak a little bit more to it, but they do technical assistance to help people who actually need assistance for applying for these programs. So I don't know if I'm eligible for traditional unemployment versus pandemic unemployment. Should I apply for a paycheck protection program? Should I apply for an economic injury disaster loan? So they've been working really hard to help people determine eligibility, what's most appropriate, what you need to have prepared. So that's what we have been doing generally. But in terms of updates on the legal front, new legal issues to look out for, there haven't been a whole lot of changes. But otherwise, I'll punt it to Alexis to introduce herself and talk a little bit more about what we've been doing for technical assistance for artists and arts organizations dealing with the federal and local and state programs.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexis Dearborn. I'm the Operations and Programs Manager with the Arts and Business Council. And Luke actually did a really good summary of everything we've been doing with the technical assistance calls. But if you are interested in taking advantage of that program, you can sign up by going to our website. I'll include a link in the chat for our COVID-19 resources page, and that also has some FAQ documents there. And we're also here to answer any questions from any of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
That's
Alexis
it. Yeah.
and Luke. Yeah. And if you two could just, like you said, if you could put your emails in the chat. So if anyone has any questions, Luke and Alexis will be on the call for the entirety of the time. So they'll be here for the Q&A. So if anyone has questions, feel free to wait for the last like 15, 20 minutes and you can put them in the chat when we'll start the Q&A. Great. I'll move it to Emily from Mass Creative.
Hello. Hello all. This is Emily Ruddick from Mass Creative. Thanks for the time to share and talk about the work that we're sort of seeing happening on the federal and state level. Julia and Pascal, you run a great meeting. So big news. About 2 hours ago, the House released their 4th stimulus bill, which is called the HEROES Act. And it includes a lot of relief to states, municipalities, and counties. This is really, really important because in the wake of COVID-19, states have seen their revenues just totally drop, right? Because there's no tax to collect if nobody's going out and buying things, right? So sales tax goes away. So there's a ton more expenses in terms of taking care of the Commonwealth in this moment. So that 4th stimulus bill just began its journey to being a law. If any of you spent any time watching Schoolhouse Rock, it has a fair number of obstacles, and I think we can expect to see the makeup of that bill change. A couple of, besides the money directly to states and local municipalities, they've also included $10 million for the NEA and the NEH, and $5 million for the Institute of Museums and Library Services. That's not a ton of money. And so I think one of the things that we and our national partners are going to start doing is digging into that bill and making sure that we are looking for every opportunity for creative workers and artists to take advantage and find ways to access those dollars once they come to the state. So that's a longer project, but I just want to give you a heads up on that. So then on the state level, we know that the Reopening Advisory Board, which was stood up 2 weeks ago by Governor Baker, will be delivering their report on May 18th. But yesterday, they did a sort of an initial, here's how here's a way to understand the way that we're thinking about reopening. So, and in this document, the PowerPoint, you'll see a hyperlink, and that it goes right to the presentation that was given. It was a 3-slide PowerPoint. And one of the things that they kind of block out is that it'll be a phased reopening approach with less with businesses that have less of a likelihood of transmission being able to open first, and then really being rooted in data and science. The other piece is that they are going to deliver a series of frameworks that will help businesses know how to implement the right kind of standards for public health and sanitation that are required in order to stay open. And then the third thing is that in that deck, they included some real specific language on how businesses must keep their workers safe. And so it's everything from having hand washing stations to allowing time for folks, if they are sick, to take the sick time. So this is an evolving issue, and we do expect to see we do expect to see a lot more clarity on Monday, May 18th. What I think we should all be prepared for is we may not see, it's still unclear how much detail they will go into in terms of when and how creative industries can reopen. So we will be working with our partners, continuing to advocate for the creative community to be called and named out in any document about reopening, and then working to interpret the guidance that they are giving us as a field and making sure that it makes sense for our field and is inclusive of our diversity of sectors. So then the other big piece is that the Health Connector has extended their enrollment period to May 25th. So that's important, right? Because many of us have seen shifts and declines in income as a result of lost jobs. And so we may not be able to pay our previous healthcare premiums. We may have lost our healthcare through the termination of a full-time job. Or we may have seen our COBRA payment, and as a result, seen COBRA payments that are just unmanageable. So please check out that link. The Health Connector has a variety of ways to get health insurance, and particularly in this moment, I think about the many ways that we need to protect and support our community, and making sure we have access to healthcare is one of them. As Luke said earlier in the presentation, we keep seeing things. We keep seeing the implementation of bills and policy, and now we're in a little bit of a waiting period. So we do expect to see more legislation on the state level coming in the next couple of weeks, and that will be something that we will report back on. Thanks so much. I will take questions at the end.
Thanks so much, Emily. All right, we're going to move on to today's topic and our focus, which is strategies and resources for mental health. And we've brought on Melissa Alexis, and she'll talk about her work and how she's going to disseminate some of this information for us today.
Thanks so much, Pascal. Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Alexis, and I'm the founder and lead facilitator for my organization, Cultural Fabric. I'm a dance artist, as well as a yoga, meditation, and dialogue facilitator. I'm here today not as a clinician, although I have, done a residency, a year-long residency in hospital, but it is as an artist and as a mindfulness practitioner who applies my work to our chronic mental health states that I'm sharing resources with you today. Following Emily's presentation, you'll notice that in this slide is very much is speaking to mental health resources from the Massachusetts Department of Mental Health and some other resources that you might find. There are actually 3 slides, but I'm not going to go through them right this moment. The other thing that I'm here to do, which is what I always do, is build community and you will hear me okay? It's telling me my internet connection is unstable.
We can hear you now.
You can hear me, thank you. Mindfulness is a state of heightened awareness, and what that has to do with this moment as we are in isolation and as we are with people or maybe apart from people, that understanding our mental and emotional states is really important. And those of us who are artists, all of you on this call are ahead of the game and usually in touch through artistic practice. But there are other practices that I'd like to share and leave you with before the 15 minutes or so is up. I just want to start and ask how everybody is doing at this time. So if you can think of a word or a phrase that just, take a deep breath and come into your body in a different way, and allow yourself a moment just to pause to understand how you are in this moment. And if you can, either you can unmute yourself and share with us or drop it in the chat. I would love to just hear how you are. And if it's okay, I'll just read out coming from the chat. Feeling stuck, wound, tense, strained, hanging on. Scattered, overwhelmed, hopeful, anxious, numb, worried, and so wherever you are, and keep it coming. If you haven't spoken up and you want to drop something in the chat, feel free. Or if you want to speak in, you're never interrupting me, so this can be an exchange. Bring your feet to the floor, to the earth. Sit up, so wherever you are, whether you're standing, sitting, it's all the right thing. And place your right hand on your heart and your left hand on lower belly. And if it feels okay to you, close off the eyes. And you'll notice that as I go into this, as we go more into this idea of mindfulness and mental health and this connection, we slow down. And so slowing down a bit, taking a pause, and honoring all of the emotions that you just shared. Thank you so much for trusting and for sharing with all of us how you're feeling. And just holding that, we're holding that in this space, all the things that people shared, and breathing with it. Take a deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, exhale. Take another deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, exhale. Leave the mouth open and maybe move the face around a little bit and just notice where you're holding any tension. Yeah, you might even activate other parts of the body as you tap in. You might understand that you're holding tension somewhere else. It could be the neck, it could be the shoulders. So move in whatever way you need to move the body. And so one of the things that we understand as we start to move the body and tap into the breath is that we hold a lot of our pain and any wounds they go right into the body. And so we often disconnect with in the work that I do in cultural fabric. It's about reintegrating the mind and the body, because we often separate. That's how we've been conditioned. And so we hold the mind separate from the body, and we have to go back to the body to fully understand how we feel, to surface it, and then to let it process through the body so that we can sustain ourselves. This is about sustaining ourselves through this time and beyond, and sustaining. Many of us have responsibilities to sustain other people and to sustain our work. And so thank you for all of that, and thanking yourself, holding the heart, closing the eyes again, and just breathing regularly and noticing that you breathe, and right away tapping into the sense of grace, that if we're so lucky, when we breathe in and out, we don't have to think about the next in-breath, it comes. And so just feel your heart beating, and feel a moment, just for a moment, if we can tap into that sense of grace. And so that hand on the heart and hand on the belly right away gives you a sense of sensation. So you can feel free to take notes if there are little things that you want to repeat. This is a great one at bedtime. I lie in bed and I place my hand here and one hand here and breathe into my hands so that I'm breathing into my heart and into my belly. And that immediately taps in to slow the breath down and to calm the nervous system. I'm going to give you 2 more breathing exercises, so feel free to take notes, and then we'll go back to the macro level and talking about how this all applies to mental health. And so to place your hands facing down on your thighs and sitting up so that the spine is comfortably erect and the head is floating on the topmost part of spine, and feel the connection between your seat and crown of head. And so at once you're feeling the opposition of the groundedness and the stability under your feet and under your bottom, and then feeling the floatedness, the floatiness of the head floating up towards sky. So our body is going in that those polar directions, polar opposites. We're feeling a sense of connection, and we'll go into what is called equal breathing. And so this is the second one, equal breathing, breathing in for 4 and out for 4. And we'll do this together. Inhale through the nose, seal the lips, and exhale through the nose if the nose is unblocked. On my count, inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Take yourself through 2 more rounds, counting in your own head, inhaling for 4, exhaling for 4. Inhaling for 4. Exhaling for 4. The base of the exhalation, squeeze belly button back towards spine. Release and return to breathing regularly. And just notice any physical sensation. This is where the awareness piece comes in. Notice how you feel. Notice your mood. And notice the quality of your thoughts. How is the mind speaking to you? And what does it say? The last breath exercise is that we're going to inhale for 4 like we just did. And eventually the exhalation will be double the inhalation. We'll practice this together. And this is one that is used in trauma a lot with And especially on the exhalation, I will ask you to press hands into your thighs. And that is to activate the vagus nerve, which runs through the belly. And that activates our parasympathetic nervous system, which slows and calms us down. So we're telling the system to slow down. Take a deep breath in. Exhale through the nose, empty. Inhaling for 4. Exhaling for 4. Gently press into the thighs with the palms on the exhalation. Inhaling for 4. Exhaling for 5. 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4. Exhaling for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4. Exhaling for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhaling for 4. Exhaling for 8, 7, 6. Press into the thighs. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Squeeze belly button back towards spine. Release. Return to breathing regularly. And just notice any physical sensation. Notice your mood. Notice the quality of your thoughts. There's no right or wrong. There's nothing that I expect you to feel. Just notice. And releasing it. And so I'll just talk a little bit, but feel free to talk to me too, so you can unmute. So talking about how this work applies to mental health. So right now, I'll just talk about the ways that this work is applying right in the moment. I am working supporting individuals. So individuals come to online yoga, online meditation sessions. And these, a lot of the people I work with, because prior to this, the organizational clients I had were in healthcare and were in higher education. A lot of those folks are in healthcare, mental health supports, and education, and artists. So these are folks who are supporting other people, and I am working to support them and to support their sense of stability. We also have people who have lost people, both to the virus and to other complications. And so that means that we are also resourcing folks to deal with our grief, that we are in a moment of collective grief and collective trauma. And so using the body and going to the body to really process that has been the task with individuals. Starting to do the same kind of support with organizational teams, particularly in healthcare, but open to working with all teams of organizations who need that kind of support in order for us to be, healthily communicative with our colleagues and be able to juggle all of the priorities we're juggling. It's a big task and a big ask. And so I'm supporting people to go to their body, mind, and be able to resource or strengthen themselves to have that stability to do that. And then the third way that work is presenting during this time, which we've been doing this work of racial healing, which we know is still very applicable, although structures and supports within organizations are not able to prioritize that as much right now, but it's needed for us to really integrate how the challenges around racial healing, how that's really showing up in a big, big way during this pandemic era. And so honoring that, I'm launching the virtual cohorts, the fourth cohort of the Healing Arts Institute program, which I started in 2018 to really integrate mindfulness and racial healing work. And so we're starting that cohort in about a week's time. That's all to share my work, but here, going back to the slides, you'll see that there are a number of different resources. Please turn to both the City of Boston resources, which includes these emergency crisis services lines that are open and available 24/7. In crisis, we always advise people to either call those crisis services or 911. The Massachusetts Department of Mental Health has a new site. I just pulled out some of those resources so that you can see them right off the bat. Massachusetts Network of Care is a new mental health, behavioral health site that was launched by the state, and so it's definitely worth looking at that as a resource, including their COVID mental health page, which gives both tips and gives access to providers and a search directory. Another directory that is fairly new. This is a private business, but it integrates therapists of color in one site for people to be able to search, and that's called InnoPsych. So you'll see that link there. There's an Essence article that came out not too long ago about finding a therapist of color. So I'm orienting, all of these resources are for everyone, but oriented especially to support Black, Indigenous, people of color, LGBTQ folks during this time. Fenway Health Therapy and support groups are still going on, and that you can access those virtually. And finally, the Boston Public Health Commission does have a page, which I'm sure the city could speak to more than I could. But again, just pulling out these resources. Next slide, please. There are advocacy groups, again, just pulling out this information about health insurance. So as Emily mentioned, you can sign up still, opt in through the Mass Health and the Health Connector. There are or could be different ways that behavioral health, mental health insurance could be challenging. So we definitely want people to know about the advocacy groups that can help them navigate the insurance. Then there are peer support groups. This is non-clinical, but these are folks who focus specifically on mental health and mental health in historically marginalized communities. So Vital Village Network is one of those, and they're hosting online events. Dee Dee's Cry is another. Pure Spark, founded by Naisha Deed, is another, and has a wonderful resource. If you join on Facebook, Mental Health Advocates, I don't remember the whole title of the Facebook group, but there are groups out there where you can find and access other practitioners. Pure Spark, it definitely advocates a lot for that. Another support network is the Dorchester Roxbury Mattapan Support and Advocacy Network, which is part of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So they're an affiliate. Local clinicians and mindfulness-based practitioners, there are too many to name. I'm just naming a few since this is Mental Health Awareness Month. Stephanie Belnavis, who formerly of Whittier Street Health Center, is now in private practice working with families and children through dance movement therapy, again, going to the body. Kwame Dance is a behavioral health clinician at Whittier Street. Dr. Jennifer Brown is an independent practitioner and psychologist, as well as Dr. Katia Burdo, an independent psychologist. So these are just folks that I know firsthand, but there are many, many clinicians, and some of those search directories can help you find others. Next slide, please. And I wanted folks to know about different funds that are taking off right now to help people fund mental health appointments. The Loveland Foundation is a therapy fund that was founded by writer, author, scholar Rachel Cargill, and that's, I guess, full. So they're currently taking names for their summer fall wait list, but it's worth signing up. This is for funding for, again, for mental health appointments. And so similarly to Raji P. Henson's foundation, the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation that she just started is taking applications for free virtual therapy appointments. And she's also simultaneously raising funds. There are many other practitioners besides me in the mindfulness space in Boston, too many to name, but you can absolutely find them on Facebook. Other names that I can mention are Mike Massey, Tiffany Mangum, Portia Lee. There are many, many people who are practicing to help people find stability and equilibrium during this time. And I'm open for any questions. If we have time for questions that are specific to this now, that would be great. So if you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Maybe one question might be, one question that I ask after practicing anything is, how is it now? Or what happened? How are you now? And so if you can tell us how you are now, and then share your question. Thank you. Or your comment. That's fine. If there are no questions oriented toward this section, you can reach me through that link. And also, feel free to drop in. I know it can be, you know, we're here in sharing resources, so it's kind of like toggling back and forth between taking care of yourself in this time. But that's one thing that I really want us to get well versed in doing, is even when we're among a group of people, to toggle back to taking care of ourselves. And even better if we're able to advocate that in our spaces, in our meetings, in sessions where we can start feeling well-versed and comfortable to share how we're doing in a moment, and then to go back to the business at hand. I feel like that is part and parcel of what we need at this moment to maintain a sense of our humanity through our connectedness around how we're feeling. And so, you know, I honor however much or little or none at all that you want to share. And I encourage us to, you know, build in some of this time into the ways that we do business with one another. Thank you. Thank you so much, you all. I'm just reading your chat.
Thank you so much, Melissa. If you could, we'd love if you could put your email address or even a link to your website in the chat as well. We'll be sending the PowerPoint to everybody after the meeting, but just in case people are interested and looking now and seeing what resources you have and anything else that they could ask you as well. And we'll keep some time open if anybody else has questions for Emily or Luke or anyone who's spoken today.
Hi, I'm just having trouble getting the Zoom to work.
Okay, is there a specific thing that's not working for you?
I don't see where I can type in. You're looking for our emails. I just figured out how to turn the microphone on. I'm not sure what I'm looking for to join in with comments or anything.
Oh, so we were just asking if anybody had questions or comments about any of the information we've shared today. And there's a chat room, and you could go to the chat and type in any questions, or you can ask any questions that you may have for any of the speakers who spoke today.
Okay, I don't see where for some reason, I've used Zoom before. For some reason, I can't access that. I do have a question. I don't want to get too off topic, because I also want to mention those. I like those breathing exercises. I couldn't figure out how to type it in as a comment. It seems like something effective one can take away from this and practice at home easily. So I just wanted to comment that I couldn't figure out how to type it. I couldn't get that field up. I don't want to get off track. I can wait towards the end. I did have a question about the Boston Artists Relief Fund. I don't know if I should ask that now or contact you later. I don't know who's available right now. Everybody's working from home for.
You're welcome to ask now. Julia Ryan's the one who is the one who administers the entire relief fund.
Okay, can I ask a question? Is that all right? Is this the right time to do that?
Yes, please.
Okay. This is something I'm a little confused about. I know it's closing. I submitted I forget the date, a while ago. Is this something where when one cycle ends, you're supposed to just resubmit, or do you just stay in the submission pool?
That's a great question. So no, if you have submitted an application already, that's the only one you need to submit. We're closing it so that we can focus on filling as many of the applications we've received already as possible. So we've been able to fund so far some of them. We haven't been able to fund all of them, but you're all set for now.
Okay. And my question is, I couldn't really tell. I just got home to see this email that this was happening like 10 minutes before it started. That's why I didn't have a chance to reread everything. I'm a little I'm a little confused by this fund if it's the kind of thing where if it's read through and the applicant is eligible and meets the criteria, is it being done like if you meet the criteria, it's a random drawing of those who meet the criteria, or is it just being reviewed and awarded one by one? Like, are you being judged and juried, or is it you're hit the eligibility and it's being a name pulled out of a hat? That's my question.
Right. No, great question. So what we're doing is we're reviewing the applications in the order that we've received them, and everyone who lives in the city of Boston, who is an artist who has lost money from either their creative work related to like their artistic practice, from working as like a teaching artist or arts educator, or someone who works in maybe a non-creative job but has lost income through that has affected their ability to create creative work. Anyone is welcome to apply in that particular regard. You just have to live in Boston. And we are funding all applications right now that are applicants that make under $60,000. And I think that those are the only criteria at this moment. So anyone who lives outside of Boston or makes over that income amount, we're holding on to those applications in our pool. If we're able to raise as much money as we can, we will also reconsider those applications. But we are looking at them just in the order that we received them.
Okay, that's what there's been a variety of different funds and this and that and here and there, and they all have different ways they're handling them.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good. And where do I tap on here that allows me, I'd love to be able to get, there's a lot of information with the PowerPoint. I'm supposed to, you have, I guess, my email because I registered. Do you?
Yeah, so we have everyone's contact information. So what we can do is we can follow up with a link to the PowerPoint, and then also a link to a recording of this video that will be on our website.
Oh, great. Okay, that would be great.
Yep.
Awesome, great. Does anybody else have any questions for any of our speakers today? And just like Julia said, we will be emailing the PowerPoint and the recording of this meeting. So you'll be able to access the links that way. So do not worry, it's not that you are not able to access the links, it's that I'm sharing my screen. So you'll be getting the PowerPoint probably within an hour or so after our meeting. Does anybody else have any other questions, comments, or concerns? Or does anybody have any topics they'd like for our next meeting to focus on? We have heard a bit of things that people are interested in, but it's always helpful to know what information you're looking for and what things we can help you with during this time.
And just so everyone knows, the reason that we did choose to focus on mental health care and wellness this week is because of feedback that we've gotten during these calls in past weeks, but also from just some of our initial results that we're seeing in the survey that we've been asking folks to fill out across the state. Everyone is definitely feeling the strain on their mental health as throughout every industry right now. And so we want to make sure that we're getting this information to you all as best as we can.
All right, since we don't have any other questions, we'll be ending our call today. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We'll be having another call, not next week, but the week after. We've moved these calls to bi-weekly. So like we said, if there are any other concerns or topics that you'd like to share with us, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm also going to leave my email as well. So if there are any other things that you missed or questions that you'd like to ask us, feel free to email me. And Julia, if you could leave your, perfect, Julia left her email too. So please feel free to email any of the speakers if you have any further questions after today's meeting. Thank you all so much for joining us today and have a great Tuesday.
Thank you, everybody. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.